Hey, this is Richard with Salt Strong. Today, we're going to go over everything that you need to know to catch winter trout in creek systems. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, guys, so the first tip I have today for fishing for trout in the winter in creek systems is going to be going over water depth and what part of the tide cycle that you're fishing. Now, this time of year, I really like focusing on creeks that are going to have roughly or at least 6 feet of water or more at low tide. The reason why is trout, this time of year, they like a little bit of deeper water. So having something that's gonna have roughly 6 feet or more of water, even at a lower tide stage, is really gonna be beneficial, and they're probably gonna stay there throughout the rest of the tide cycle as well. So going into the actual portion of the tide cycle that you want to focus on, this time of year, outgoing typically is going to be your best, but if you can and you have the time, definitely target the lower thirds of that tide. The reason why is fish this time of the year may only feed, once, tops twice a day. So you really want to focus and be there when they're going to feed. And in creek systems like this, and you'll see it in some of the graphics and things that I have in the later part of the video, you'll see these trout are just staged up in those deeper holes, and all they have to do is wait for the bait to come off of those flats and that warmer water to kind of get their metabolism going, and all they have to do is feed, and they don't really have to move around a lot. So this is ideal, and let's go ahead and get into this video and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. There he is, trout. All right, guys, as you just saw in those previous clips, we were actually catching most of our fish, even though it was a lower part of the tide cycle, in those deeper holes still. So this is gonna kind of bring me to this next part here in this graphic, and I'm gonna show you exactly where to find these fish. So as you can see pointed out, the oysters are back there, so there's your structure, and then you have a flat that's kind of behind everything, and then as always that we teach, there's a drain coming off, and that's all getting pushed out into deeper water. Now those trout are basically just staging up in that deeper water. In this case, it was about 4 to 8 feet. And as you saw as well, we're on the trolling motor. We're not necessarily just camped out. We're moving, but we're targeting, these high percentage zones and these deeper holes kind of on the sides and in the bends of a creek system. So this is where those trout are going to be, and all that bait's getting flushed out with that warmer water from the flats, and the trout are just having to sit there and wait for that bait, and then they can ambush it and not really have to exert a lot of energy. So this time of the year, if you can find anything that looks like this, you're going to be in a good setup. Go. They might have just been a little deeper on us. He's actually a decent fish. Oh, really? Yeah.
There's two buddies from work.
Oh, this one's better. Yep. Oh man, right at the boat. All right, guys, so now that we know where to catch fish and catch trout and find them in these creek systems, let's go ahead and start talking about positioning. Now, positioning is going to be very, very important. And these fish, they might not spook like they normally would, earlier in the year when there's some warmer water and actually move out of the way. However, what, a larger vessel, a trolling motor, even a kayak sometimes can actually shut that bite down if you get too close to them. So you want to make sure you have an appropriate amount of standoff, which, in this case for us was probably about 40 or 50 feet. And the trout were still feeding very well and we weren't spooking them, even being on the trolling motor. So that's going to be a little bit relative to where you are and what your creek system is, but that's something to keep in mind because you can easily shut down a bite if you get right over top of those schools, because those schools are, grouped up and there could be sometimes 30, 40, 50 fish or more, and all it takes is a few of them to get spooked and you can have a pretty slow day. So make sure you got some standoff, and that's really going to help your chances at catching more fish throughout that day. Oh man, I didn't even put any action on that. Just threw it out and let it sit and he grabbed it. There's some good good sized finger mullet in here too. Doubled up. Nope, that didn't take long. Had a good bump and I missed it. There we go. Now we got him.
Trout?
Yep. Trout ski.
Double that.
All right, so that's gonna be it for today, guys, and I hope you liked all these tips. And as you saw, we had a pretty good day. You can as well. This time of year is great. These fish are stacked up usually in pretty big groups, and they're gonna be pretty predictable. And once you start to find some of these trends and fish in some areas like you just saw in this video, I guarantee you'll have some success. So if there's anything that you like to do when you're fishing for trout in the winter or have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. We'd really like to hear from you. And if you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we're the best online fishing club for saltwater anglers, especially if you're targeting redfish, sea trout, snook, or flounder. There's nothing else like it, and we actually guarantee that you'll catch more fish while saving time and money. We do this with our premium education, the exclusive insider community, and huge discounts on all the tackle you need. To learn more, go to saltstrong.com. Otherwise, hope to see you again soon.